Alright, passenger equipment safety standards part 238, subpart A, movement of equipment, subpart D, brake test, module 11. Module objective, apply of the FRA safety standard with a recognized deviation from standards, subpart D, overview. 301 scope, 303 the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection passenger equipment, 305 the interior calendar day mechanical inspection passenger car, 307 the periodic mechanical inspection passenger car and powered vehicles used for the passenger train, 309 periodic brake equipment maintenance, 311 single car test, 313 class 1 brake test, 315 class 1A brake test, 317 class 2 brake test, 319 running brake test, subpart A, movement of the passenger equipment, the power brake defectives, movement of the passenger equipment out of the power brake defects. Class 1 brake test 238, 313, commuter and short and long distance intercity, each calendar day, long distance intercity passenger train with departs for the original terminal each calendar day, or 1,500 miles with a continuous service whichever occurs first. A long distance intercity passenger train with the midst of the scheduled calendar day, Class 1 brake test due with a delay in the route, with the may proceed with it to the point where Class 1 brake test was scheduled to be performed. Class 1 brake test shall be completed with the prior to the placing of the train back in service. Special consideration given the late night commuter trains. See matrix. Class 1 brake test adding cars. Each passenger car and powered vehicle with the additive of the passenger train shall receive the Class 1A brake test and level the written notice that is provided with the train when the crew of the Class 1 brake test was performed out of the car when the previous calendar day of the car has not been off source with the compressed air for more than 4 hours prior to being added to the train with a written notice shall contain the date and the time and location of the last Class 1 brake test. Class 1 brake test who and how. Class 1 test must be performed by qualified mechanical and personnel. Class 1 brake test must be performed either separately but in conjunction with the exterior calendar day mechanical inspection. Class 1 brake test performed with the air pressure at which the train will be operated not less than 90 psi. Unless the car vehicle is moving through 3815B with a 100% of the operative brakes are required or on passenger train receiving the Class 1 brake test. Brakes must be observed and inspected with the both side of the cars, verified with the application or release. Friction brakes must apply with the remain applied with the one until the release of the brakes has initiated. Class 1 brake test how? Check with the brake shoe pads aligned with the correctly proper thickness with the firmly seated against the wheels or disc, piston tread with the actuator prescribed limits, communication signal system, two-way radio test for the proper operation, engine brake valve with the control of the proper operation, brake light leakage does not exceed 5 psi per minute. If the brake pipe leakage will affect server the performance emergency control device dead man pump pedal function as intended. Class 1 brake test how and test how. Continued. Angle cutout counts properly positioned. Brake rigging does not bind or foul with electro-pneumatic brake functions intended with the verified by walking each car. Brake discs are free from cracks that exceed manufacturer specification. Brake indications are equipped with the operating with intent with the brake pipe pressure chain with verified at the rear of the train. Class 1 brake test records. Written electronic records shall be maintained on each of the Class 1 brake tests performed with the provided with the FRA upon request. The record shall be maintained for the place for the inspection conducted. The one central location shall be retained at least 92 days. The record must contain the following information: the date and the time the Class 1 brake test was performed, the location where the test was performed, the identification number, the controlling locomotive of the train, with the total number of the cars inspected during the test, the control electronic identification of the inspector. Class 1 brake test 238, 315 when prior to the first morning departure, either the commuter short distance intercity passenger train, unless the Class 1 brake test was performed in the previous 12 hours, train has not been used for the passenger service of the performance of Class 1 brake test. The train has not been off source of the compressed air for more than 4 hours since the Class 1 brake test was performed. Commuter and short distance intercity passenger train with the provided with the continuous late night service at the beginning of the prior with the midnight may go for forego an additional brake test with the train with the type service shall receive the Class 1 or Class 1A brake test before starting the newly daily operating cycle. Class 1A brake test performed with the start of the newly daily operating cycle. The train must receive Class 1 brake test at some point during the calendar day. Or Class 1A brake test who and how. The Class 1A brake test is performed with a qualified person, qualified mechanical person. With a 1A brake test should be performed with the air pressure which for the train will be operated unless for the car vehicle with a moving gun 23815B with 100% operative brakes are required on passenger train receiving the Class 1A brake test. Each brake test is observed with the inspect verify application from relief of the railroad determine the procedure is safe. It is not safe if the brake indicators may be used to determine the status of the release for them. The car is equipped but the observation must be made and by walking the train. Class 1 brake test A. How? Check. The brake pipe leakage does not exceed 5 pounds per square inch per minute. If the brake pipe leakage will affect the service performed with each brake test for the relief of the inspection of the manner previously described on multiple unit equipment, the emergency brake applicator for the dead man panel with the emergency control with the device function with its intended each angle cutout is properly set. Class 1 air brake test. How will continue with the communication brake pipe production of the chain with the rear of the train with the verified with the accomplished with the observation applicator for the relief of the brake for the last car on the train with the communication signal system 2-way radio test for proper operation. Class 2 brake test 238-317 when all passenger trains are in with the control stand, you have the control of the train with the chain with the train departure for the terminal complex with the passenger prior to the first warning departure each for the communicator short distance intercity passenger train with one class 1 brake test remains valid with the cars with the receipt of the class 1 brake test as a previous calendar day have not been off stores with the capacity for more than 4 hours are added to the train. Cars and equipment that are removed from the train when the operator first takes charge of the train except within the cave of the face-to-face relief. Class 2 brake test. Who and how? Class 2 brake tests must be performed by a qualified person with a qualified mechanical person except for the provided with the 238-15 with the railroad shall not use the hull of the passenger train with the passenger served at the front of the terminal or yard where Class 2 brake test has been performed or was required for this purpose performed with any of the brake cutout inoperative the defect with the Class 2 brake test. How? Check with the brake supply with the relief the rear of the train respond with the class in response to signal the engineer brake valve with the control of the leading with the controlling unit or a gauge similar device with the rear of the train with the cap of the rear unit indicating brake pipe pressure changes. Multiple unit equipped with emergency brake application for the dead man panel with emergency control device function is intent with the communication signal system 2-way radio test is proper operation. Running brake test 238-319 when, after all the passenger train with the departure, assuming the conditions safely permit, all passenger trains run with the control stand with the unit to control of the train and chain with the terminal complex with the train is not in the passenger train. Running brake test. How? The running brake test shall be conducted within accordance with the railroad established operating with the rules shall be made with applying brakes in the manner of the allow with the engineer to certain whether the brakes is operating properly. The engineer determine the brakes are not operating properly with the engineer shall stop the train and follow the procedure provided within 238-15. Passenger train test discussion refer to matrix. Movement for repair. 2 provision for the movement of defect with equipment. Movement of the repair for the power brake defect with 238-15. Movement of the repair for the other power brake defect with 238-17. Both provision limitation condition must be filed within order for the movement to be allowed without civil penalty liability. Both provisions essentially apply with the Terry 1 equivalently to certain section of the provisions apply with the Terry 2 are incorporated by reference 238-503E and F. The railroad not relieved over liability event with the death of the injury of the railroad employee with the rising for the movement of the defect with equipment and return to above. The equipment is defect with the part 229 with the view of the passenger but will also be subject restriction imposed by the 229.9. Management of the repair of the power brake defects 238-15. At the time of the Class 1A brake test is performed, the movement that may occur without civil penalty liability provided with the following conditions are met. Train mover repair without passengers applying applicable operating restrictions based on the percent of the operating brakes in the train with the defect with equipment and properly tagged with the information record with the view of the automated tracking system. Train move without the passenger scraping or sail at the speed of 15 miles an hour or less in accordance with the railroad's air brake and power brake instruction. Power brake defects en route. En route or after Class 1A brake tests performed of the movement that may occur with the civil penalty liability provided with the following conditions are met. Brakes were operative with the Class 1A brake test that become the defect within route and applicable operating restrictions based on the percent of the operative brakes of the train. Effective equipment properly tagged information recorded via the automated tracking system. Power brakes and defects en route continued. If the en route power brake defects cause the brakes to operative with a cutout with a percentage of the operative brakes on the train must be calculated. Notify the dispatcher percent of the operative brakes train movement that restricted the notified mechanical department over the failure. Confirm the percentage of the operated brake whether it's performed the walking inspection next location where the railroad reasonably judges it is safe to do so. Tagging or recorded defect with the equipment. Power brake defect with the tag of the car must be defect with the car. Time with the defect with the discovered above appear on the both side with the defect with the equipment in lieu of the tag with the card. Railroad ministry with the automated tracking system. The year of the cave with the following information must record on the record. Reporting mark of the car or locomotive, the number, the name of the inspection railroad, the name of the inspector, the inspection, the location of the date with the nature, each with the defect with the destination with the defect with the equipment repair point. Signature if possible the job title with the person reporting with the defect with the condition. Automated tracking system must be acceptable for review at any time by the FRA with the railroad employees. Automated system must secure with the containment of the information from the previous slide with adequately tracking the manner of the movement of the defect with the equipment. Failure to comply with these requirements could lead to the FRA revoking the railroad's option with the use of the automated tracking system. Operating restricted to valve of the brakes with the verified, depending on the total number of the operative brake with the train type and type of the train with the operating restriction required in order to movement is made without civil penalty with liability. Computation of the percentage of the operative brakes train scope with the disc on with a combination of the diff of the tread braking with a determine the percentage of the operative of the brake for the train with a divide by the number of the axle, the operative brake for the total number of axles. 4 trains equipped with the tread brake units for the divided number of the tread brake units by total number of the tread brake units. Each cutout axle with a locomotive that weighs more than 200,000 pounds should be counted as a 2 cutout axle for the purpose of calculating the percentage of the operative brakes. Disc and tread brakes. The axles, if an axle is equipped with both disc and tread brake with the eve of the disc with the tread brakes for the operative of the axle is considered to have the inoperative brakes. Of the brake defects, the following brake defects should not be considered with the calculating percent of the operative brakes and train. Failure cutting out with the secondary brakes is the handbrakes, parking brake with except for the piston trouble that does not render with the brakes and effective brakes overdue with the inspection, testing, maintenance, stenciling. Operating restrictions on all passenger train. All passenger trains developing 50 to 74% operative power brakes may be used only as follow with the train move of the passenger shift only with the next 4 passenger station. Speed of the train shall be restricted to 20 miles an hour or less. After all of the passenger discharge of the defective equipment shall be removed to the nearest location where the necessary repairs can be made. Operating restrictions. 75 to 84% of the operative brake with the commuter short distance and intercity short distance carrier 2 passenger train with 75 to 84% of the operator's brakes must reduce train minimum allowable speed to 50% of the 40 miles an hour, whichever the less. Move to the next 4 location which repair can be made if the passenger shift of the risk for the move of the train with the next to the 4 passenger train with where the passenger train can be safely unloaded. Half of the passenger train with the discharge of the train must be moved to the nearest location for repair. Operating restriction 85 to 99% of the operative brake with the commuter short distance and intercity short distance carrier 2 passenger train with 85 to 99% of the operative brakes must be moved to the next 4 location which can repair the main with the passenger safely at risk. The train may be moved to the next 4 passenger station with the passenger commuting safely unloaded. After the passenger's discharge of the train must be moved to the nearest location for repair. Operating restrictions. Long distance intercity passenger trains with 75 to 84% of the operative brakes must reduce the train maximum allowable speed with the 50% with the 40 miles an hour, whichever is less. Move to the next designated forward location which repair can be made if the passenger safety risk. Move of the train with the next 4 passenger station where the passenger can safely unload. After the passenger is discharged of the train must be moved to the nearest location for repair. Operating restriction long distance intercity passenger train with 85 to 95% of the operator must be the next designated forward location where repaired can be made if passenger safety is risked. Move of the train with the next of the 4 passenger station where the passenger can be safely unloaded. After the passenger is discharged of the train must be moved to the next location for repair. Operating restrictions on all passenger trains. All passenger trains are complete with the inoperative power brake without on the front of the rear unit. Handbrake is located inside of the car and the following conditions apply. Qualified person must be stationed. The handbrake car must be locked out and empty. No passenger prohibited speed restrictions must be placed on the train by a qualified person. Cooperating restrictions on all passenger trains. All passenger trains with completely inoperative power brake on the front of the rear unit. The handbrake is located outside of the car, otherwise inaccessible. The following condition applies. Cars must be locked out empty with no passenger. Trains shall be operative. The restricted speed not exceeding 20 miles an hour. The car shall be removed with the train and repositioned in the train in first location where possible to do so. The movement of the defect with the equipment of discussion refer to matrix. And this is the end of module 5 or module 11, whether you be brake, freight brake safety or the module for the maintenance.